I've just been on a retreat for women in ministry in the Methodist Church, the theme of which was exploring icons. We were led by the Reverend Nicola Vidamore, who worked for a number of years for the church in Russia, and she led us in our reflections on a number of icons from the Russian Orthodox Church in Pskov, near where she lived. It was a really restful and rewarding week, and I could say a lot about it, especially as I learned a few Russian words that really added to my understanding of some of the biblical stories. Those things will no doubt come out on some other occasions. The thing I've been thinking about over the last few days is that the word icon comes from the Russian word for window. I've known for a long time that you're supposed to look at an icon as you would a window, that the images are there to help you see through, to help you see beyond what's immediately in front of you and into a deeper understanding of God. But I hadn't realised how closely the words are actually related in Russian. As well as exploring in detail 4 icons that described some key biblical passages, we were also asked to think about our own context. So we each had to send in photos of a window we look out of often, and also think about what other people might see if they looked through that window too. A slideshow of all our photos was played during a time of reflection in our final worship, and seeing my own windows come up among all the others made me see them with different eyes. It made me wonder, what am I not seeing anymore because I'm so used to looking out of the same window, both literally and metaphorically? And what do others see of me and of my life when I allow or invite them to look in? Graham finally came home a few days ago, having been away for over 3 months, and it's been funny to watch him looking at the house with new eyes. It's not just that he was impressed with my mad cleaning effort in the days leading up to his return and didn't recognise the place. He just can't remember where anything goes anymore, and he's forgotten a lot about our routines. Yesterday he had nearly every kitchen cupboard door open because he couldn't remember where the cream crackers were, and he's still handing me things to put away for him. It makes me think about how strange everything will feel when we eventually get back into our church buildings again. You don't have to be away from familiar things for very long at all before you begin to forget things, and coming back to them does make you appreciate them all the more. I suppose that's one of the reasons why they say a change is as good as a rest. Graham's happiness to be home at last means that for now he is seeing things differently. And although I know that that change of vision won't last long, and soon he won't see things in as much detail or with as much pleasure again, while he does, I will enjoy it. At the very least, it's also helping me to see some of the many things about my life and routine and even my dwelling place that I've been taking for granted. I was recently preaching on the story in which Jesus' opponents are trying to catch him out on the question of paying taxes to the Roman emperor. He uses a coin and asks whose icon it bears. And I talked about how this Greek word icon could be translated as image, and how this would have had a deep resonance with a Jewish audience who understood themselves as created in the image of God, as icons of God. So I said that what Jesus is saying here is really radical and subversive, because although he seems to avoid the question of paying taxes by telling people to give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's, really the subtext is that the people have a higher allegiance than to Caesar. As bearers of God's image, they belong to God, and no state authority or political power can take that away. They may appear to be under Roman rule, but ultimately the only rule that matters is God's rule. In the light of my recent understanding of the close connection between icon and window in the Russian language, I've been thinking about this from a slightly different angle. What does it mean to say that we are made to be windows of God? How does this change the way we look out at the world? And what does the rest of the world see when they look in on us? I'm thinking that actually windows are much more interesting than I've previously thought. And I'm talking about all kinds of window, and not just the highly intricate and decorative stained glass windows that you might find in some cathedrals or churches, like the vast Piper window in Coventry Cathedral, or the more intimate Chagall windows in All Saints Chudley, where the eye-level stained glass can be seen so closely that you can actually identify the marks that the artist continued to make even after they were installed. These kind of windows have long been associated with enabling people to worship and encouraging people to see through the glass to a deeper image of God beyond the frame. Dr. Jonathan Sacks, who died at the weekend, wrote, "The concept that art can add spirituality is something that goes to the core of all religions. Marc Chagall's stained glass can but serve to enhance the spirituality of the beautiful surroundings in which they're placed, advance the fervour with which the Almighty is worshipped, and increase the devotion of those coming under the inspiration of Chagall's divinely inspired talent." But even a plain glass window frames the image that lies beyond. When we step back and look out of a window, we're being invited to see what lies behind as a work of art. I feel very fortunate to have windows on 3 walls of my study, especially as I worked in hospital pharmacies for many years before I went into ordained ministry, which never had any windows at all. They were always in the depths of the hospital and lit artificially. And so you never knew at the end of the working day whether you would be going out into daylight or darkness, or good or bad weather. Over the last few days, I found myself sitting at my desk and looking out of my 3 windows in a new way, taking notice of the minutest details of the things I can see, observing the way the light catches things differently at different times, and paying attention to subtle changes in the spectrum of colours, where once I might have just seen things as brown or green or whatever. And this is all amazing. It's been a revelation to me. And don't get me started on what it feels like when a bird hops into the frame, or when I see the top of someone's head bobbing along above the wall of my divine painting. Worship and wonder and gratitude have been magnified enormously for me this week simply by looking differently out of my windows. But what kind of window am I? I'm trying to look out with God's eyes, to see the detail and the beauty and the pain and the need of the world that lie in front of me. Sometimes it's easier to marvel at the splendour than to respond to the need. It can be so tempting to try and keep the things that I'm challenged to do something about to the edge of the picture, or to leave them in the distance far away where they might not be noticed at all. I struggle at times to look out from God's perspective. But I wonder, am I sometimes like that special kind of glass you get where the people behind can see out, but the people on the other side only see a mirrored reflection? If I'm a window of God, is my glass clean and clear? Or is it tinted to the point of obscurity? Am I that kind of weird bathroom glass that allows you to see vague shapes, but no detail? Can people see anything through me at all? Can anyone catch a glimpse of the love and generosity of God when they look through my frame? Are there any distracting marks or smears on the surface of my glass that draw the eye and prevent the perceiver from looking more deeply? On at least one of my study windows, I could easily be led to simply ponder on the cobwebs, rain splatters, and a bit of bird's poo that are all shouting, "Clean me." This kind of minute detail on the glass has the potential to stop me seeing any further, to the range of autumn colours on the trees outside, or the magnificent fronds of an enormous pampas grass gently moving in the air, almost giving the impression of being underwater. Am I an open window, allowing God to use me and work through me, and enabling others to see God in me, and more than that, to touch and encounter God through me? Or am I closed and shuttered, trying to keep God in and others out? If I've been lovingly created to be a window of God, what kind of window am I? These are questions that will occupy me for some time to come. But for now, I'm asking simply that God will help me to be the best window that I can be, that I may be more aware and observant and participative in the world around me. I may not be as beautiful and perfect as many windows are, but despite this, I'm praying that through me, even just one person might find themselves seeing something new of God. May I, through the windows of others, and others through me in turn, be drawn daily into ever deeper and more profoundly life-changing encounters with the vast landscape of God's love.